Tonight by Jerry Bruce, and it's a timed event, and candidates will be notified when they're down to 20 seconds, and when their time is up, then Dawn will come. And appreciate everybody coming out. And once we get through the regular questions, there'll be time to take questions from the floor. But the questions from the floor, we're asking that they are general questions. They're not specific to one party, that they're questions of all three candidates. So we're not saying what's your party going to do about, something that's specific. So, all right. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jerry and we'll get things going. Thank you very much.
Applause not necessary. Always appreciated. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an event that is always important in democracy, and that's the opportunity to meet and hear your candidates. Can you hear me, by the way? Is it? Yeah, I really enjoy this type of activity because it's when real people get together with other real people who've chosen to take a big step in their life, and that's to enter political life if they haven't been in that political life for quite a few years, like at least one panel member tonight. But the intent tonight is to hear what they have to say. My function is to ensure that the questions that you want as an audience are asked. We have 6 questions that will start off the evening, and we give the speakers 3 minutes each to respond to the question. There'll be 6 of those. I'm going to ask you to kind of hold your questions until later and listen to what our candidates have to say, because they have individually promised me they're going to tell us all they can about themselves. And for the new candidates, two candidates are new to this particular exercise, as I call it. Please share your thoughts with us and be prepared for questions from the floor. My function as moderator is simply to be a pleasant distraction from reality. This is our reality tonight, but I will remind you that this is a moderated forum, and as a forum, it's meant for discussion, not debate. It's not meant to come up and argue with people. It's meant to ask to clarify what they're saying when they are speaking. So from my side of the podium, if there are questions that are confusing,
please turn it on and
sort them out.
Turn it on.
We want to hear from the candidates is what they believe, what their party believes, what they believe, and why they want to run and influence your life and mine. So we have 6 questions that will come. I will read the question to begin it. First round, I'm going to ask Patty to start off and have the response down the table. But the questions are meant for dialogue. The questions candidates are meant to have you share your thoughts. I'm not asking for arguments. I'm asking for explanations tonight. So 3 minutes will be the first time frame. Tiffany will be our timer, and she's going to give you a high sign about 20 seconds before your time runs out. So keep your eye on Tiffany. So ladies and gentlemen, if we can begin, I hope you enjoy this as much as I'm looking forward to it. The first question, and it also, get back up here a bit. Candidates, you're first in line. We allow candidates 3 minutes each to tell you why they want to run for office and what their background and experience is. So if I may, Patty, I'll let you begin this round. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning. Afternoon. I don't know.
Technology. Is it? Are you live, Patty? Yeah.
Hello. My name is Patty McLeod. I'm a longtime resident of Watson Lake, and I've been here since 1977. I raised my 2 children here and put them through our school system. I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer. I've been an avid volunteer and served a term on town council. I've been the MLA for Watson Lake for 14 years and have had a long and sometimes bumpy relationship with the Alaska Highway. But I do like to drive. People that know me and have listened to speeches that I've made will know that I favor short speeches, for which most people are very relieved. The new riding, which includes Ross River and Faro, encompasses about 99,000 square kilometers, and I think the second largest in the territory by area. It's been an interesting journey to get to know the people in Ross River and Faro. The biggest challenge is finding out how the people communicate, how to reach the masses, and I haven't quite figured that out, but I have had many opportunities to talk to residents at their doors, and I thank them. My favorite aspect of being an MLA is the face-to-face conversations with people. I will talk to anyone, anywhere. And if I'm able to help someone with a problem, well, that's fulfilling. My kids, when they were younger, refused to go to the grocery store with me because it took me far too long to get through the store because I always found someone to engage in conversation. And I'm not shy about saying what's on my mind. And if I don't know a thing, I'll ask. I consider myself to have integrity. And I'm always where I say I'm going to be. And just so you know, I like community dinners. The three communities, Watson Lake, Ross River, and Faro, are vastly different. The problems, the issues, the wants and desires of these communities are different. The thing that unites us is that we all want our communities to thrive. We want our people to be successful. We want our children to be happy, healthy, and successful in life. So let's start there. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Dale, you are next.
Thank you. All right. Hi, I'm Lael Lund. I'm a third-generation Watson Laker, raised on the unceded traditional territory of the Kaska Nation. While I'm not Indigenous, I have family ties to the Kaska and Tahltan communities and to the Dene Nation of the Northwest Territories. My roots in Southeast Yukon run deep, and my values were shaped right here at home. My grandmother owned and operated the Watson Lake Hotel after the Alaska Highway was built. As a kid, I spent countless hours with my dad as he visited elders, seniors, and folks who were struggling. That taught me what leadership really looks like: showing up, listening, and doing the work quietly without fanfare. In my early 20s, I started one of the Yukon's first Northern Lights tourism businesses, and Watson Lake was the destination for our international clients. That work gave me hands-on experience in tourism development, local partnerships, and community-driven business building. For more than 20 years, I've worked across the Yukon in economic development, tourism, entrepreneurship, communications, and in senior roles with First Nations governments and organizations across the Yukon. I hold a master's degree in community economic development because I believe that our economy should serve people, not the other way around. And because I believe that doing well can and should go hand in hand with doing good for people and communities. My work as a consultant and business advisor involves supporting new and growing entrepreneurs, designing training programs, and helping build a stronger business community here in the Yukon. My familial ties and longstanding work with Yukon First Nations leadership and in Indigenous community development make me uniquely positioned to help bring the people of this district together, to build on our common interests, shared strengths, and the collective vision for the future. I'm running because I know I can do an excellent job, and I bring a unique experience, education, and long-standing connection to this region. I believe in using my skills to serve others. It's something my father lived by and something my brother continues to show through his own community service. That sense of purpose runs deep in my family, and it's what drives me now. Southeast Yukon is full of resourceful and community-minded people who care deeply about their future. I'm here to work alongside you, to advocate, to listen, and to help build the kind of future that honors our past, strengthens our present, and creates real opportunity and well-being for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And Sophie.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. I want to start by acknowledging that we are in the traditional unceded territory of the Kaska Nations. And I want to thank the organizers of this forum and the people of the community for taking the time to share this space tonight. Azi, Josie O'Brien Guye, Ismoma Mezi, Joy O'Brien Guye, Isboba Mezi, Wayne Olson Guye, Iska Denalasta. My name is Josie O'Brien. I'm a member of Ross River Dennet Council, and I'm from the Crow Clan. My parents are Joy O'Brien and Wayne Olson. My grandmothers are Daisy O'Brien and Dorothy Smith. My grandfathers are Joe O'Brien, John Olson, and Harold Smith. I've introduced myself in Deneke, and I introduced myself by my family so that you know who I am. I am the manager of the Vivian Atsat program at the Council of Yukon First Nations, a program I helped build since 2022 based on community and elder guidance. I helped build the Community Impact Statement Coordinator program through Council of Yukon First Nations as well, based on cross-Canada data and community guidance. I've been an Indigenous core worker based in Whitehurst and worked in communities such as Carcross, Teslin, Haines Junction, Burwash, and Dawson City. I worked at Wolverine Mine and Selwyn Chihong as an office administrative assistant and environmental technician. These early roles helped me raise and support my firstborn son, who now works in environmental monitoring at the Faro Mine. I've been a parks officer at Yukon Parks, an assistant environmental monitoring officer for environment, a research assistant at the Yukon College, parking meter attendant, a cashier, and a housekeeper. I have a certificate in Aboriginal Justice Studies, a diploma in renewable resources management, and currently working on my social work degree. The point of me sharing my accomplishments with you is to provide you with comprehensive understanding that I have experience in multiple fields. I'm here because I care deeply about hearing people's stories and working together toward fair and lasting outcomes. I come from people who traditionally sacrifice themselves for the greater of their community. My mother's an advocate, my grandmother's a leader, my family is large and have held many leadership roles. I see them and I understand that their love for their people is why they chose this path. These are the values that I was raised with. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. And for the audience members who came in just a little bit later, we have started the process, the introductions you've just heard. Now we're going into 6 questions that I'll read the question, and each person will have 3 minutes to respond. I will ask that you remember that we have our future leadership here, and these questions are designed to get them to share with us, what they think. We have 3 parties: the New Democratic Party, the Liberal Party, and the Yukon Party represented here tonight. And after the introductions, I'm really excited now to hear more of the details. First question, come up. And Patty, I'll start with you again for this particular line. Under understanding the needs of the community, what are your 3 top priorities as an MLA representing Watson Lake, and how do you plan to improve the lives of the citizens in the district? 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you, Jerry. Now, Watson Lakers agree that their top concern is the cost of living. To help relieve this, the Yukon Party commits to providing clear leadership and direction to Yukon Energy. We will work with them to restructure capital funding in its Yukon Utilities Board submission, focusing on cost efficiencies and deferred non-essential projects. The bottom line is Yukoners simply can't afford a 34% increase to the power bill. We have proposed capital investments and seek alternative sources of funding. Most have already felt the impact of a 10% increase that was imposed in July of this year, and I certainly noticed the increase. The second thing that Watson Lake residents are concerned about is housing, and this is an issue on many fronts. It's very difficult, or for some, impossible, to get a mortgage to purchase or build a home. We need to find a solution to this problem. And the town of Watson Lake has started this work by doing some fact-finding. So working together, we need to address next steps, and I commit to pursuing this. Another aspect, of course, of housing is the rental market, and it's very difficult to find a place to rent in this town. Every private landlord I've spoken to wants out. But still, people need and want rental housing. The government is simply too involved right now, and we need to find our way back to balanced. We can also encourage rental housing starts, and I know that the town of Watson Lake is providing grants through the Housing Accelerator Fund, and I support this. And kudos to the town for pursuing this from Canada. But the Yukon government could do more, and options can be explored. As a third commitment, extended or continuing care for our residents. This is not a new idea. We've been looking at this since before we had a new hospital. Now, I'm not going to go into the history today, but our citizens have been clear. Extended care must be an option right here in Watson Lake. No longer do we want to send our family members to Whitehorse and care facilities there. It places undue hardship on people when it comes to travel and cost. We've raised this continually with the Liberal government for a number of years through the legislature, in meetings, in public engagement, and petitions to no avail. I and the Yukon Party commit to moving this forward, and I believe we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. That was just right on 3 minutes.
A little shy.
Just a little shy. Liberal Party, yeah, please.
I take a slightly different view. I think there's a lot of agreement among folks in the district what the top issues are. After speaking with each community, I take a little bit of a different view. If elected, the way I approach this role will focus on things that influence everything else. Reconciliation and partnerships. Real engagement, consultation, and communication. Community safety and well-being. These are the building blocks of lasting change, and here's what I mean. Good decisions don't come from behind a desk in Whitehorse. They come from working directly with people, listening, showing up, being part of the community. That's why I'm committing to host at least 2 town hall style meetings each year in the district, and that would be in each of the communities that is now part of the district. I would also commit to spending dedicated time living in the district by using the MLA accommodation stipend for local residents. I don't just want to hear from people when things go wrong. I want to build shared priorities and then get to work on delivering them. The new district includes a large part of the Kaska Nation, and that gives us a real opportunity. By working together across communities and in true partnership with Indigenous governments, we can raise the profile of Southeast Yukon and help make our voices heard collectively. This is what reconciliation should look like: co-governance, shared decision-making, economic opportunities that benefit all, and building systems that reflect everyone's needs, not just the status quo. I've spent over 20 years working with Yukon businesses and government, and more than a decade working specifically with Yukon First Nations. I also hold an MBA in community economic development. That background helps me understand how to lead systems change, how to redesign the way government and communities work together so that people are at the center. It's also how we start addressing community safety and well-being, not just through enforcement, but through healing, prevention, and meaningful justice strategies like the MMIWG2S+ action plan. On housing and economy, here's what we'll deliver. We'll cut the Watson Lake current housing waitlist significantly and invest in new builds through partnerships with local governments and First Nations. We'll work with community partners to develop solutions to emerging housing issues. And we'll create good jobs through support for small business, tourism, clean energy, and better infrastructure, so people can build real futures close to home. At the end of the day, it's about building a future with communities, not for them. It's about listening, partnering, and making sure Southeast Yukon has a seat at the table. And that's the kind of leadership I'm ready to bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. And Josie, I apologize for misusing your name. I publicly apologize. 3 minutes now for you, please.
Thank you. One, healthcare. I met a nurse here who spoke about being on contract. And when nurses are not supported in the community, it creates a sense of instability. Relationships cannot be formed and your health suffers as a result. The Yukon NDP has committed to training more nurses at Yukon University. In exchange, they will work for 5 years in community. 2, lower costs. I think it's safe to say that we've all felt the increase of groceries and electricity in the past few years. I have 3 children at home and my groceries have gone up substantially. The good thing is I'm a hunter and I can offset some of those costs in that way. My electric bill has doubled since 2020. Yukon NDP has committed to a school nutrition program in partnership with YFNED that will feed every child in every school, as well as freeze the upcoming electrical rate increase in January and begin investing in energy. 3, Yukon NDP has spoken substantially about working with and partnering with Yukon First Nations, which in turn will create more opportunities for business, jobs, and economic development for everyone. Thank you.
Josie, I'll start with you on the next question and we'll come back. Second question from the audience. What specific actions will your party take to improve access to health care services in Watson Lake, Cross River, and Faro, such as staffing rural health centers, access to mental health and drug and alcohol services, providing culturally appropriate care and meeting the needs of aging populations? Josie, will you start?
Thank you. I've heard from people in this riding who live with very serious allergies and who are in constant fear that they don't have access to a nurse or emergency services when their centers aren't open. The Yukon NDP has committed to hiring more nurses and nurse practitioners and keeping healthcare centers open. We will add 10 seats to the LPN to RN bridging program in partnership with the University of New Brunswick. Cover that tuition for nurses that agree. Cover that tuition for nurses that agree to work in Yukon healthcare for 5 years after graduating, and create a 4-year RN degree program at Yukon U to train our next generation of Yukon nurses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please.
Healthcare should be reliable and accessible, no matter your postal code. For me, this issue is personal. I've lived the rural gaps. I've supported family and friends trying to get the care that they deserve. The Liberal plan includes clear funded actions, such as expand team-based clinics with nurse practitioners and mental health workers, especially in areas without full-time doctors. Reduce rural nurse vacancy rates, already down from 47% to 19%, and keep that momentum going. Expand home care so seniors can age in place close to family. And this is a measure that is included in the plan for rural Yukon. Build long-term care options starting in Watson Lake. Increase medical travel support by 15% and work to streamline the system. Fund aftercare programs so recovery from addiction isn't just about treatment, but real healing. And this is another one of the measures that is extended into rural Yukon. Most importantly, we'll continue building Shakwa, Health and Wellness Yukon. It's the new First Nations-led health authority. This is not just a healthcare reform, it's a systems change that addresses longstanding inequities and its reconciliation in action. It centers Indigenous values and service delivery and creates models that benefit all Yukoners. As someone with a background in decolonizing economic systems, I understand that fixing healthcare isn't just about more clinics. It's about changing how we govern, fund, and deliver services in ways that truly serve people. Healthcare isn't a luxury, it's a right. And I'll fight to make sure that our region gets what it needs.
And I'll start you on the next round question. Patty, Yukon Party?
Well, thank you. I'm going to talk about Watson Lake in response to this question. And Watson Lake is doing pretty well with regard to our healthcare services. We have doctors, nurses, and a functioning hospital, and Watson Lakers recognize that. To my knowledge, we have housing to accommodate our healthcare professionals. It should be noted that people from Ross River and even Whitehorse come to Watson Lake to see a doctor. But there are things we can do to make it better. A number of people are sent to Whitehorse and beyond for medical reasons, and we know that this adds a personal cost. The Yukon Party commits to a review of medical travel rates to help out with this. We don't want to hear of people not getting the appropriate health care because they can't afford all of the costs associated with this travel. We will work to develop medical lodging options in Whitehorse and southern medical destinations like Vancouver. Watson Lake has a mental wellness hub. We need to make sure that it has the resources it needs, and that includes appropriate staffing. This hub is the place to go for counseling service on mental wellness, drug and alcohol counseling, and arranging treatment when desired. So the availability of treatment has come up and may be an issue. If so, as this treatment is currently based in Whitehorse, we do need to address this. The treatment should be available when people want it. Aftercare has also been raised, and I think there's a great opportunity here to partner with the Daly Dene Council, because they have the Iron Creek Lodge that I believe that they're structuring to provide that aftercare. Now, of course, we all want to see culturally appropriate care whenever accessing services. Every person wants to be treated with dignity and respect. Our hospital has a First Nation liaison staff position to help with our First Nation patients navigate the system. And I believe that people want to do the right thing. And if this isn't happening, then let's address it. With regard to our aging population, I've already spoken about extended care. Overwhelmingly, our seniors and elders want to stay in their homes until the last minute. And I can understand that. And families that can help are a bonus, but many seniors don't have family to call on. I have long advocated for assistance to help them stay at home. There are many ways to do that, of course, and I'm happy to answer those questions later, but home care tailored to the residents need to be offered if we're to keep people in their home for as long as possible.
Thank you, Patty. I'll ask you to start this one off for the audience. Third question, attracting and retaining professionals. What is your party's plan to attract and retain skilled professionals such as teachers, nurses, tradespeople in rural communities like ours? And Dale, I'll start with you, and Patty, on to proceed.
It's not enough to just hire people. We need to keep them. And that's where the real challenge lies. The Liberal plan is tackling this with essential staff housing in Watson Lake and Ross River, local training options so people can study and stay in their communities, including bridging programs for LPNs to become RNs, creating a student loan forgiveness program for in-demand trades, rural-based incentives and flexible contracts to support long-term placements, professional support systems and measures to reduce burnout, We're also expanding trades and teacher training through Yukon U and creating new post-secondary programs that encourage grads to return home. From my work in capacity development and governance reform, I know that retention is about culture. People stay where they feel valued. As MLA, I'll push for respectful, supportive, community-based work environments because professionals are people first. And this is also part of reconciliation, building community capacity through partnerships and shared leaderships, especially in Casca territory, so local people can become the nurses, educators, and leaders who carry us forward. Thank you.
And Patty, next.
Other Canadian jurisdictions are innovating and trying new ways of recruiting and retaining healthcare professionals. And we can and will do that here too. The Yukon Party will attract and support healthcare professionals by marketing campaigns to encourage U.S. healthcare professionals to move to the Yukon and practice in the territory. By working with the Yukon Medical Association and the Yukon Medical Council to streamline the process of recognizing foreign-trained doctors with similar standards, including the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. We'll work with nurses to create a new regulatory model for nursing, including an arm's length regulatory body and adopting a competitive pay scale for nurse practitioners. Now, of course, in the case of nurses, educating and training them right here in the Yukon through Yukon University is an excellent option. We'll increase the support for healthcare bursary programs for Yukon students and increase incentives to attract new doctors. With regard to teachers, we will partner with the Yukon Association of Educational Professionals, school boards, and councils to develop a recruitment and development strategy, which will be timely and efficient. In addition to that, we've heard that housing is an issue. So in the case of Watson Lake, we'll look at market rental housing in addition to Yukon housing options. Now, I'm a supporter of the trades, and in order to attract them to Watson Lake, we need work for them. This circles back to having money to build in the first place, but we can work towards having a supply of tradespeople in training. A few weeks ago, David Dixon put together a meeting to talk about trades training, and I was happy to attend. Much work is to be done on this, but collectively, we want to see training take place in Watson Lake, and this is possible through Yukon University.
Sue.
Thank you. The Yukon NDP will pay your tuition at a new RN degree program at the Yukon University to train our own nurses. In exchange for paid tuition, these nurses will work for 5 years in community. When people are given the opportunity to work and live in community, they build connections and relationships invaluable to the community and are more likely to stay. When community is given the option to become nurses, they are given the option to stay home and work in their home community. This same concept will be offered to teachers who will pay tuition in exchange if they work in community for 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. The fourth question for the audience, and I'll start with you, Patty. The fourth question relates to infrastructure and rural capacity. Given the aging conditions of municipal roads, water systems, and public buildings, what commitments will your party make to fund and prioritize infrastructure renewal in the district? Patty, and then right down the tape.
Thank you, Jerry. And we recognize that local governments best understand their needs and their priorities. We will strengthen municipal governments by working more closely on infrastructure planning and development and modernization of the comprehensive municipal grant, which is the funding mechanism between YG and communities. And this will ensure communities are adequately resourced to deliver essential services which underpin economic and housing goals. Mandating community impact analysis within the territorial government's legislative, regulatory, and policy development processes, ensuring communities are engaged early and their needs and priorities are considered, are good steps. We will advocate for changes to the gas tax funding program, now known as the Canada Community Building Fund, including the ability to stack funding resources and enable these funds to address infrastructure deficiencies much more effectively.
Patty?
Infrastructure is the backbone of everything. Safe water, decent roads, schools, health services, emergency response. And right now, too many rural systems are crumbling. Here's what's in the Liberal plan and what I'll fight to implement. Watson Lake's water and sewer renewal program, phase 1 is now completed, and we'll push to assist with moving phase 2 ahead. Road upgrades, including the Robert Campbell Highway, a long-term care facility for Watson Lake, public works and fire hall upgrades in Faro, support through the Rural Growth Fund and Building Canada infrastructure programs, continued work on the Yukon BC Grid Connect for clean energy and rural jobs. But money isn't enough. We need capacity support so small communities can navigate applications and access funding. I'll also advocate for local hiring, procurement, and training. So infrastructure dollars create jobs and skills here, not just in Whitehorse or beyond. And when we talk about reconciliation, we need to include infrastructure, roads to connect communities, clean water systems, public spaces that reflect local cultures, and First Nations at the table when planning happens. That's how we ensure systems serve everyone. And I will ensure that consultation and collaboration are not one-time steps, but built into every part of the process.
Thank you. And Chelsea, please.
Thank you. Anyone who's driven the Campbell or questioned drinking water from their tap in this riding knows that these communities have been neglected. The majority of people in Ross River drive up the highway to collect their own drinking water in blue jugs. I've heard in Ross River of their need for a cultural center, somewhere that the community can connect, and I want to commit to listening to stories and understanding what is lacking in your community so that I can bring that forward to the government and advocate on your behalf. The Yukon NDP has committed to investing in schools, clinics, and hospitals, whether that's to upgrade or replace what needs to be done in those buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. And Josie, I'll get you to start the next round of questions. For the audience, we're on the 5th question now. There are 6 questions. The 5th one, economic development and local business support. What strategies will your party support to grow the local economy, encourage entrepreneurship, and support small businesses in Watson Lake, Ross River, and Faro? Start with Josie, and we'll come down the table.
Yukon NDP has announced to small businesses that they will provide direct relief from the initial extended producer responsibilities program costs and offer one-on-one support from the EPR program navigator who would assist business with its transitioning. My oldest son has wanted to be an automotive technician since graduating 3 years ago, but there's a little opportunity and it is a big commitment from one person to train someone for 4 years. He's still not having that opportunity. Yukon NDP has committed to trades training and apprenticeships by supporting First Nations, union partnerships and collaboration with industry and Yukon University. Thank you.
Thank you. And Leon, please.
Rural Yukon has incredible potential that can often be overlooked. I've spent my career working on community-led economic development, launching the first Northern Lights tourism company in Watson Lake, helping First Nations design social enterprises, and developing workforce training rooted in local skills. Here's how we build thriving local economies. 0% small business tax to reduce barriers, support tourism, trades, farming, and renewable energy. 5% of all government food procurement from Yukon farms by 2025. And I'll push to make sure that Southeast producers are also included in this. A simplified grant access process and more rural entrepreneurship support. more trades and training programs based in our district, Watson Lake, Ross River, and Faro. The Liberal platform also supports community development agreements, ensuring major projects benefit local communities directly. And this work ties to the MMIWG2S+ strategy, which calls for economic justice and opportunity as a form of safety. True reconciliation means creating systems that serve all people fairly, including through job creation, wealth building, and self-determined futures. I'm committed to that work and to ensuring the communities have a say in how it unfolds.
Leo.
For Watson Lake, two things come to mind right away. The forest sector. We once had a vibrant forest industry and a lot of people working and contributing to the lifeblood of our town. This stalled at devolution and has not recovered. We need to see the completion of the Southeast Yukon Forest Management Plan. Now, I've asked the Liberal government about this several times and cannot get an answer except for the yes, of course it's important. So without this plan in place, we can't seem to get access to timber. The timber in Southeast Yukon is a valuable commodity and is much sought after. This industry can put a lot of jobs in the mix, jobs that pay well, and jobs that allow for a range of skills. If we can get this sector back up and functioning, it looks after all those things listed in the question: grow the economy, encourage entrepreneurship, and support small businesses. Now, Watson Lake has a lot of sport opportunities, which include hockey, curling, skiing, skating, and just being out in nature. Our plan to promote Yukon as a sports destination could provide all manner of opportunities for private businesses and economic activity throughout the community and can be done year-round.
Thank you, Patty. We'll go on to question 6. Dale, I'll get you to start this one off. Josie second, and Patty. So this is the 6th question, and just so you know, we'll summarize this portion of the presentation, the closing remarks of our candidates, and then we will have open mic for questions from the floor. So the 6th question is on emergency preparedness and disaster response. With increasing risks of wildlife and other emergencies, how will your party support community preparedness, emergency response infrastructure, and local capacity to manage disasters in the Yukon?
Thank you. In 2012, our home in Upper Liard flooded. It was devastating, and we needed to advocate directly to a minister to access available support that saved our home. I'll never forget it, and I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody else here. Emergencies are increasing in our world: floods, wildfires, outages. Our communities need real tools. The Yukon Liberal Plan commits to a new independent Department of Protective Services for faster response, $30 million into wildfire fuel breaks and fire smart programs, training support for local fire crews, and expansion of the Yukon First Nations wildfire model. Discounted emergency preparedness kits for residents, and better evacuation planning, especially for communities like ours. Communications upgrades so people stay informed when it matters most. In collaboration with the town of Watson Lake and other partners on the implementation of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. In addition, the Liberals are advancing work tied to the MMIWG2S+ strategy, including justice system reform and safety planning. Emergency response is a part of this, particularly for women and gender diverse people in rural and Indigenous communities. And once again, consultation and engagement must be foundational. We need to plan with communities, not for them. As MLA, I'll make sure that emergency readiness is budgeted and not begged for. I'll fight for trained teams, proactive planning, and help that arrives when you need it, not months later. Rural communities deserve better, and I'll aim to deliver. Thank you.
Trustee Gibbons?
My own family lost our fish camp due to flooding. My grandparents have had to evacuate their cabin and all its belongings on the Campbell due to fire risk. I'm thinking about the floods that occurred in Ross River or the Liard River recently. Yukon NDP is committed to increasing wildland fire crews by 25%, upgrading wildland fire bases, and hiring emergency support staff from community to provide training for emergency management and develop emergency plans in collaboration with the community. Thank you.
And Patty?
I just need, it's a technical thing. Thank you, Jim. So with increasing risks of wildfire and other emergencies, the town of Watson Lake and Liard First Nation have been working together to come up with community safety plans that address local concerns. Training on emergency preparedness is ongoing. The town administration is getting ready to present the document to council for their final approval. And once done, the Yukon Party government will review the plans and work with the community to see what is needed to fully implement the plans and agree on what resources are needed from government and how best to achieve this. We commit to developing a climate change action plan that will include actions that will help the Yukon adapt to the changing climate by planning resilient infrastructure, and that ensuring that Yukon communities have necessary emergency plans in place. We will continue to take action to mitigate the impacts of forest fires on Yukon communities.
Thank you very much. Tremendous amount of information coming out. The 6 questions have been asked. I'm going to ask the panelists now to summarize what they really want you to hear from all of this for 2 minutes each, and then we will go to the mic. So if I can ask you, Patty, to start your summary comments, and Vail, and then proceed.
As I've mentioned throughout the evening, our communities need some help. Rural Yukon has been ignored, our issues have been ignored, and that has to change, of course. So my job as MLA is to bring forward the issues of this riding to the government, and that depends, like who could predict who the government will be? Whoever the government is. I will work with all of them to move this forward. And I just want to thank the town of Watson Lake for hosting this event. And I hope that those in the room and online found it informative. And I want to thank the other candidates for this engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Vail? 2 minutes.
I'm running because I believe Southeast Yukon deserves a representative who leads with integrity, shows up, and delivers. I come from Watson Lake. My roots here are deep, and so is my respect for this region and its people. I've raised a son, I've built businesses, I've worked with First Nations across the territory for over a decade, and I've recently taken the step to earn an MBA in community economic development. And I did so because I'm serious and so inspired about creating real lasting change that starts in community. I'm not a career politician. I'm someone who's rolled up her sleeves and helped build things that didn't exist before. From launching Yukon's first winter tourism company to helping a First Nation redesign and indigenize the governance model, to advocating successfully for flood relief when my own home was underwater, and acting as a medical advocate for my mother who resides in long-term care. I'm not just a dreamer or a strategist, I'm a doer. I'm a collaborative leader who brings vision to life and gets results. If I'm elected, I'll lead with purpose and not politics. I'll show up, not just to shake hands during campaigns, but to live, listen, and work alongside you. I'll fight for housing, for jobs and healthcare, but I'll also focus on what makes all those things possible. That's partnership, communication, reconciliation, and community voices. This district has so much potential, and I believe that I can contribute a great deal to helping realize a better future for our children and for those to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And Josie?
Thank you. Our party leader, Kate White, was in Watson with me just last week, meeting voters at their doorstep. She knew folks here by name and greeted each one with the same word she greets the next person. I agreed to be this candidate because she asked me. We met at Wolverine Mine in 2009. She was the cook and I was working in environment. Ever since I've known Kate, I've seen her consistently advocate for people, including myself when I felt hopeless. She saw how I did the same in my various roles since. I'm asking you for the opportunity to serve alongside her in an MVP government, by the people, for the people, that is committed to addressing healthcare all across our territory and banning corporate and union donations to political parties, thus returning power to the people, and focusing on providing jobs in every Yukon community by decentralizing government positions. I'm asking for a chance to listen and to bring your voice to government. Citizen Alva, thank you.
Well, thank you to all candidates. The New Democratic Party, the Liberal Party, the Yukon Party. We've had a chance to hear what your candidates have said. This is a new division this year, I understand, in terms of
Riding.
the
It's a riding.
It's a riding. The riding is different this year. Whoever takes over will have to have a different approach to communities. We have time tonight to ask questions. I do want to thank the candidates and the parties for being here tonight. I'm going to ask you to take just a minute to think about the questions you might want to ask. I'll ask you to funnel the questions through the moderator. We'll look for clarifications if we have any confusion about the questions. And we're also asking, if possible, that your questions be addressed to all the candidates, unless you have a specific that only one candidate can respond to. But I'd like you to take a deep breath. And thank you to the audience, by the way. I haven't heard a pin drop in this room all evening. That is really appreciated from my side of the coin, and I'm sure from the candidates as well. Can you just take a minute? Or are you ready? You're ready with your question already. Could you funnel your question, and do we have the mic? Please, Tiffany. You have a mic that can go to you, so you can put your question.
Oh, I thought you meant you
Well, through me, but I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here tonight, those in the room, and of course, those joining us by Zoom. I think everyone knows, but just in case, my name is Lauren Hatcher, and I'm the mayor for the town of Watson Lake. Given that this is a municipal forum, I do have a question about some pretty important municipal issues. Candidate did touch on this a little bit, but I do kind of want to hear from everybody, so I'm just going to ask the question again. Yukon municipalities deal with significant deficits in funding for infrastructure like water, sewers, roads. Over the past number of years, funding for programs from both the Yukon government and the Canadian government, federal government, have mostly dried up after a period of time of projects being delivered, with nothing on the horizon that we can depend on going forward. This pattern of funding is not only unsustainable, but puts health and wellness of our residents and the environment along with our infrastructure at risk. If elected, what is your plan to deliver sustainable and predictable infrastructure funding to Yukon communities? And this, I just want to highlight that this is not just an issue unique to the town of Watson Lake. This is an issue that is facing all Yukon municipalities. So, yeah, so I'd love to hear answers. Thank you.
Good, thank you. David, you'll be next. Candidates, you've heard the question. Who would like to begin the response? Patty, please, for the Yukon Party.
Thank you for the question. Now, the Yukon Party recognizes that local governments best understand their needs and priorities, and I think I mentioned that already. To that end, we will establish an infrastructure fund for the Territory 7 incorporated communities, mirroring the federal gas tax fund's flexible criteria. This fund would be shared equally amongst these communities to maintain and upgrade critical infrastructure such as water systems and roads.
Thank you, Patty. Laura, Dale, would you like to go next?
Sure. I think some of this question was covered in an earlier question asked about
Yes, very good.
infrastructure. Yeah, so I'm not intimately familiar with like the specifics of funding to municipalities. But I do know that in the Liberal platform, there is identified support for municipalities and infrastructure in particular, as well as some continued commitments that had begun during the recent Liberal government term. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have additional comments to make on this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joseph, please.
Thank you. So I, as well, don't have anything particular for that. I do understand my role would be to listen to those concerns and to understand those concerns and to bring those to government. My understanding of the party that I am in is that we would advocate for those needs once provided to me. So that is something that I have committed to if given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question that was submitted prior to the speakers, and I'll read that now. David has submitted this question. There needs to be training and education resources directly in Watson Lake that students, youth, and families can access. Watson Lake has, for as long as I've lived here, fought against the centralization of resources to Whitehorse. Today, students, youth, and families are forced to Whitehorse to access trade-based education, opportunities, apprenticeships, and employment. Given the industries right here in Watson Lake, like exploration, mining, forestry, heavy equipment operators, there is no need to centralize the training and employment resources to Whitehorse. Also, there are too many of our students that move to Whitehorse and enroll in the Whitehorse University and live on campus. This move endangers our students with many hazards and many problems. We must create something for our children in Watson Lake. There must be a better way. How can your party help? David, is that the complete question that you put? Okay.
Also, I added,
David, take the mic, please.
also I added, it's not only to Watson Lake. Watson Lake is a hub for Observer, Lower Post, Upper Yard, Good Hope Lake, and Beach Lake. And that's should be the focus of it. Hopefully there's a good answer someplace.
Thank you. We'll take an answer to that question then, and then you'll be number 3, sir. Please.
Thank you, David. My dream would be that Watson Lake creates a niche market, let's say, to provide trades training. I think we have the ability to do such a thing. So I'm heartened that we're having these discussions. I believe in the trades. I've already said that. I think that you're quite right that moving our students off to Whitehorse, where perhaps half of them don't come home. So, I agree. And what can my party do to help? Well, we can flesh this whole program out with you. We can look for the money. I commit to finding some funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Ella, did you want to respond to that question?
I think that part of this was covered in a previous question, where I mentioned the ability to have training for example, health trades, as well as in-demand trades here in Watson Lake. And of course, we have a wonderful resource here with the Yukon U campus. And I know that they worked really hard to identify training opportunities that meet labor demand. So continuing to support the availability of these programs along with other additions, again, to ensure that we are able to train and support local people to meet the needs of local projects and job opportunities in the area.
And Josie?
Thank you. I was looking at this question earlier and I was reflecting on the past 3 years as I was working in the birth worker, the Begin Up program with CYFN. It is something that was needed, and the reason for it was that there's a strong belief that prevention for children going into the system begins at birth. It begins with supporting parents. And since then, it's grown and grown, and it's to the point where we're currently advocating and trying to find a way to bring birth back to communities. And this includes training Indigenous midwives, training birth workers to be in communities so that birth can be back in home in communities. So I understand this. I understand wanting to keep these things in the community, keeping education, keeping our people, keeping children in the community. I understand that given the opportunity, my role would be to listen and to understand and to bring those issues forward to government, and that's something I commit to.
Thank you. And where is the mic, the traveling mic? Front row, please. Front row, please. You're next.
Hello, my name is Tom Stewart, and I'm glad to see the candidates. My concern is I've been hearing a lot of comments about infrastructures, economic development and all that. Being a town resident for a number of years and coming back home and truck driver operating and all that, I have trouble finding work in my own hometown, because it's my traditional territory. You know what I mean? I couldn't even, I see other people coming to town, they're getting jobs, meanwhile me, I spent years working and I can't find work. That forestry sounds good, but where do we stand as Cascas? This unceded territory. And the way we hear, we don't plan to sign that paper. You know what I mean? And I've been hearing a lot of things. I like what you say, Dale, right on. You know what I mean?
Excuse me, Tom.
Yeah.
You have a question for the panel?
Yeah, I'd like to know how you as candidates will deal with transparency and accountability with the First Nations that are trying to obtain it. What kind of assistance can you give us? Give us that clarity that you guys as town peoples have, which we don't as First Nations. We like to know what's happened with our nation, and we're the ones that the backbone of Watson Lake.
Okay, Tom, thank you. I'm going to
Thank you.
stop you. Thank you. Who would like to start with that answer to that question? Would anyone like to respond to that question?
I would in just a second.
Okay, Josie, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am a member of Rossington Council in Casca. I was raised with the understanding. I actually have my grandmother's pamphlet here, and she's always said, don't sell the land. And this is something that I've heard my entire life. If you're Casca, if you're connected to the community, you understand and you've heard that your entire life. I've been exploring and like going to school and learning from elders and from knowledge holders about this understanding and how it works with Yukon government and how it works with signed First Nations. How can an unceded First Nation work in the Yukon? And I will say there are things that people, Indigenous communities are doing throughout Canada and throughout the world. Things are getting better, and there are good examples of BC working with the government, and that's backed up with good government relationships. Yeah, and I believe that given the opportunity that I can bring that information forward to our government, and that is one of the reasons that that Kate asked me. She knew that I had this connection to the land and to the people, and I was not going to waver on that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patty, you ready now? Okay. And then Leah.
Thank you for the question. So, if the Yukon Party is elected, we could, propose to carry on with the good works that have happened already. The Yukon Forum meetings, I think, are a good opportunity to sit down and talk about and negotiate where we go from here as a territory. How are we going to work together? Our focus might be a wee bit different in that we'd like to establish some achievable move forward items so that we can see some results from them. Now, obviously, history might tell us that the Yukon Party didn't always do the best in First Nation relations, but I like to think we've learned something since then. And, we are committed to meaningful engagement with our territories in leadership. Now, we want the Yukon to reflect and respect Yukon First Nation governance, values, and priorities. And even though this is the unceded territory of the Liard First Nation, I believe that the Liard First Nation is treated as a self-governing First Nation. So additional policy commitments would include working with Yukon First Nation governments to jointly develop a multi-year strategic plan, and with both the Yukon First Nation governments and the Government of Canada to ensure that boards and committees that originated from the umbrella final agreement and signed by Canada, Yukon, and CYFN are meeting their intended objectives. So Yukon Party is perfectly happy and willing to work with First Nations, and I personally support openness and transparency. Thank you.
And did you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. So under the area of reconciliation with Indigenous people and partnerships, a re-elected Liberal government will continue to partner on legislative projects, including new minerals legislation, amending the Lands Act, and reviewing the Wildlife Act. We're committing to advance Shakwa, which is a health and wellness Yukon, and that's developed in partnership with Yukon First Nations. We also propose to establish a standalone Department of First Nations Relations within Yukon government. Also, commitments also include reviewing the board remuneration policy under CYFN for boards established under the umbrella final agreements. We also propose to expand the role of Yukon government community advisors to include all Yukon First Nations, not just municipal or local communities. We also commit to including Yukon First Nations in national defense conversations affecting their territories and to reduce barriers for Indigenous Yukoners pursuing careers in Yukon government by improving hiring accessibility, expanding training, and establishing mentorship programs. We also propose to recognize Yukon First Nations language teachers under the Education Act. We will continue to also work in partnership with municipalities and First Nations to make stronger, more resilient communities, including working with said parties to make infrastructure development in communities more efficient. This includes various upgrades in other communities, so I won't mention those. And also continuing to support AYC and review the Municipal Act. I think there was another part to your question, Tom, and it seemed to relate to hiring practices and procurement. And so a re-elected Liberal government, we also are interested in reviewing procurement policies and look for opportunities that within that to bring more benefits to local communities, including employment and including reducing barriers for local companies to be able to obtain contracts in their local regions.
Thank you, Leo. Thanks. Yes, sir. You will now have a microphone right behind you.
Hello, my name is Regan. I'm kind of interested. So each of you have kind of expressed a little bit about the relationship specifically with the Casca, this being Casca territory, and I thank each of you for bringing that up in your statements. That's commendable. I'm kind of interested, and you've kind of brought up reconciliation a couple of times, or relationship to First Nations. I'm curious as to how your records, because each of your parties have been in government here in the territory. What are your government records that support the type of future that we have for that nation-to-nation relationship with our territory to nation relationship with First Nations people of this area? And what does that show for the future?
Thank you. That question. Yeah, would you begin the response?
Thanks for your question. I think that if you look over the past 2 terms of government, you'll see a commitment to First Nation reconciliation in terms of the Liberal government and its conduct. Patty sort of alluded to this before, but under the Yukon Party in the past, the Yukon Forum table was essentially halted. Yukon Forum is a quarterly meeting that takes place between Yukon government leadership and Yukon First Nations chiefs. And as official orders of government within this territory, it absolutely makes sense, and it's absolutely, I think, necessary that these meetings take place. When the Liberals took over power a couple of terms ago, part of that was reinitiating Yukon Forum meetings. And so along with that, there are a number of commitments forged between Yukon First Nation governments and Yukon government resulting from those meetings, essentially. I've referred in my comments in a number of different ways and how different initiatives under the Liberal government make good on a commitment to implement the missing and murdered Indigenous women in Two-Spirit Plus strategy. And a lot of these different initiatives, they cover, justice, community safety, health, a lot of different areas. And so through a lot of the different Liberal sort of accomplishments through the last 2 terms, that commitment to reconciliation is demonstrated through these actions.
Can you summarize your comments now?
I'm sorry, it's a little bit hard to form my thoughts on the fly here. I would like to direct folks tonight to also please visit our platform, which can be found online. And there's details under each section with regard to accomplishments of the Liberal government, as well as commitments moving forward. Just to acknowledge that it's hard to sort of be able to tie all these things together in a short response. And thank you, Regan, for your question.
Thank you. Patty, did you have a response to this one?
Thank you for the question. I think I've already said previously that the Yukon Party is committed to continuing the Yukon Forum with a focus on achieving the goals of the Yukon Forum. And of course, that includes the nation-to-nation conversations that by necessity have to take place. So I think I can say yes, yes, and yes to your questions, and fully committed to working with First Nations.
The NDP hasn't had the chance to be that government yet. Josie, what would you have to say on this one?
So I'm not 100% certain, but from previous talks I've had, when Dave Porter was voted in, I believe here back in the 80s, and NDP had some sort of government, they were really, it was a point in time where they really championed land and negotiation. So it was really in support of that and working alongside that. I'm curious now, so I'm gonna look up some things tonight. Just from my amount of time understanding the government, like NDP government and how they work with First Nations, I have a lot of faith in that. I haven't felt fearful or scared to talk to a lot of the people at that party, in the campaign and really try to figure out some things in the relationship that they would have with First Nations people. So they're doing this here, would the party support that? And it's always met with very, yes, we want to work with the community, we want to work with the people, and we want to see those things happen because we know that the people have the answers and the communities have the answers. So this role is really listening and
are we getting long-term care down there? Does anyone have any plans for Watson Lake to get any care?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Patty, respond.
Thank you, Courtney. Now, I have been chasing this dragon for many years. And Watson Lake has been looking for this long-term care facility for many years. And I commit, my party commit. So Courtney, I hope that assures you that we have always championed this and we will move it forward.
Josie, would you like to respond to this one as well?
Sure, thank you. This isn't something that I've been able to research or talk too deeply with the party, but I have, as recently as this weekend, speaking, door knocking with Kate and hearing stories specifically about that and aging in place with dignity. It's been something that she's talked highly about. And she did reference that, unfortunately, in communities like here, like Watson or Faro, any really rural communities, it's not fair that people are being sent away, and especially considering a lot of elders who've already been taken away once are being taken away again out of their community. So I'm pretty sure that I can commit to that having a very high up there place to advocate for, and I am hearing it in all the communities. And that is the goal of this role, right? Is to listen to people and listen to their voices and their issues and bring that forward to government. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, long-term care is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. Roughly 25 years ago, my mother suffered a series of near fatal brain aneurysms, which left her completely disabled, and which ultimately meant that she would need to reside in a long-term care facility. And so that prompted a lot of changes for our family and for my life in particular. So that said, within the recent Liberal mandate, we did see the opening of Whistle Bend Place, which offered a lot more capacity for long-term care. Within that opening, there was also always the possibility and land set aside to be able to create sort of like a phase 2. And at where we're at right now, like we always knew too that, you know, the population growth that we've experienced over the last 10 years, and I think we've even surpassed some of our estimates on population growth. So the reality is that demand for long-term care continues to increase. And our lifestyle changes, right? Like it used to be that we wanted to go to maybe a hot place down south to retire or to spend our later years. But folks want to stay in the north and be able to stay in their home communities. And government is in position to be able to help facilitate that. So it is part of the Liberal platform for this election to, you know, as we explore that kind of next phase, those next pieces for long-term care, to prioritize establishing a long-term care facility in Watson Lake. And so essentially it's a little bit of a shift to the original strategy that also does allow for the establishment of these facilities in rural communities.
Thank you, Liz. I'm going to take one more question here, and then David, I'm going to give you the chance to ask the last one. Mike, down, please.
With this
We're gonna end it in
writing
5
that
minutes.
is considered as Faro, Ross, and Watson Lake, why was it that this summer the road was closed with very little effort being made to reopen it during fire season? Very few upgrades have been done on that road, yet that road going from Whitehorse to Faro and Ross is the easier way to get there, and nothing is being done from here, which is a shorter distance to Ross to service out of Watson Lake. What can be done to make this improve?
Thanks for that question. Would like Patty first? Thank you.
Technical problems again?
Thank you for the question. I drove the Robert Campbell Highway from Ross to Watson Lake. And I can confirm that's not a good road. So our Yukon Party is proposing to reinvigorate the resource roads program, which would include that highway, that we can spend some money and upgrade. That money was committed by Canada many years ago. And we have heard over and over again, yeah, we're going to spend it. Yeah, doesn't get spent. So we commit to performing that work on the Robert Campbell Highway. We also are going to invigorate the rural roads program, which I certainly hope that we can get some chip sealing of some sort in Upper Yard this year. So, but these things are ongoing, of course. Robert Campbell Highway, when I finished that trip, I phoned Whitehorse and said, you're going to be hearing about that from me. It's bad. It's bad. I know people make the trip, but it's a risky business. You like, I wouldn't travel it alone, I can tell you. So I will, in the future, when I go from Watson to Faro to Ross River, be going through Whitehorse, even though it's, more than double the time.
Thank you, Patty.
Oh, thanks, you're the hell out of it.
Bill, please. Same. Highway question.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a commitment actually in our Liberal platform to work on the Robert Campbell Highway. We also haven't talked a lot about energy tonight, and part of what we propose is to continue to move forward and continue to work on the Yukon BC Grid Connect project. And that proposed project is another way that we can improve our highway and improve access to resources, as Patty mentions. And yeah, I don't have a whole lot of other background for you on that, Delise, but I can point to these two things that are part of this platform.
It was close.
Thank you. And Josie, any comments on this one?
I don't have much as well. I will say that I'm committed to advocating for that highway. I have traveled that highway my entire life. I was raised in Ross. I have a family with multiple cabins along the Campbell that we travel to throughout the seasons, winter, summer, fall, for different reasons. And I know people who I see it on Facebook all the time, people commenting about that highway. I understand that it's been an issue for a very long time, and a lot of people are consistently speaking about it online. And I've heard it a few times in the past few weeks of campaigning. And I know that a lot of people from Ross do come to Watson regularly for healthcare, for education, or to connect, the Casper communities connect that way as well. So that is something that I have for sure committed to advocate for. Thank you.
Final question, David, and we'll have a closing comment, and then we will adjourn for coffee. Go ahead.
This is about fire smart and emergency preparedness. And in Upper Yard, there's fire smart program, which people thin out the trees to prepare for forest fires, I think. But it don't make sense because they cut down trees where it is really thick and it's at the bottom of a hill, and it's not going to do anything to slow a fire. And the place where I always tell people, it's in the village. And in the village, you should start sending it out because it's emergency preparedness, like you guys are talking about. And also beside my house, there's a tree that goes right into the power line. It goes into the power lines. I see other places like that. And when Yukon Electric comes around the first time, they did some pruning there, and they cut it, but they left a mess on the ground.
David, is there a specific question you had there?
I just want to see what they would how they would respond to my situation.
Thank you. Give you a chance to respond, and this is the last one for the evening. So who would like to begin? Eddie?
This is where I always call my daughter. When we're talking about Fire Smart, of course, it's seen as an effective tool for reducing fuel wood in our forests. And by doing that, we are offering some protection for high values, such as towns, such as cabins. So I would hope, I would assume that there's dialogue that goes on between the First Nation and the government when they're laying out these areas that are going to be the recipient of a Fire Smart activity. Now, I know that there's money given to municipalities to do these activities. If we have it wrong, then we need to have another discussion to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we have the same objective.
Thank you. Leo, you want to respond to that one?
Thanks a lot for your question. And I know how frustrating it can be as a local resident when you see government-funded work taking place in your community, and yet the way it's being done doesn't make sense. I have to admit, I'm not aware of exactly how the specific designations are made and whose decisions those are. So I can't directly comment on this issue, but I do appreciate your concern.
Thank you. So did you want to bring us to a close on this one?
Sure. So I think similar, I don't understand fully about Fire Smart, and that's okay because there are people who do. And one thing that I've learned from knowing Kate for so long is that when I have a very specific question like that and I ask her, she will tell me, she'll get back to me, and usually within a day or two, she figures out the answer or the solution or understands the problem more, and then will get back to me. And it's very personable, and that's something I really strive for, and that's something that I think I'm like, she's my mentor. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to do the same for specific questions like that. Thank you.
Okay. And then my summary comments will be pretty simple but straightforward. First of all, to the audience, you're a delight tonight. I've done a number of forums such as this, and I've never really had an audience listen as carefully as you have appeared to listen tonight to the candidates. To the candidates, thank you for expressing the concerns you have as well as the role you would believe you can play. I believe that we have heard an excellent response from them. Three parties, the NDP, Liberals, and the Yukon Party, and you have the chance to vote accordingly. Final comment I would like to make is thank you to the town of Watson Lake for being considerate enough and willing to host this for the citizens of the town, and for the CBC who have arrived here. And I know you don't get many accolades, but thank you for coming to Watson Lake to record what has taken place tonight. And we appreciate you being here. Now, I know he's looking for people to talk to, not maybe tonight, but certainly tomorrow if you want an appointment with our CBC representative right there by the camera. On that note, then we'll return it to you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Gary. Sometimes moderator isn't the funnest job and nobody wants to do it. And I appreciate Jerry stepping up to do it. Thanks again to all the candidates and the community members. I think there's 30 plus in the room tonight, and we've got over a dozen on Zoom tonight that have been watching as well. So a really good engagement. I encourage everybody, there's coffee and tea at the back. I'm sure the candidates will hang around and talk to anybody that wants to listen to them. So anyways, thank you very much, and thanks for coming out. We will share the recording of tonight. It'll be on the town website. Surprise!
Surprise, we're gonna.
Enjoy your comments. Interesting to watch the next couple.